Choosing the suburb that you move to in Boise is the first most important part, but the second most important part is choosing the community that would fit you and your family. So today, we're gonna take a look at Eagle, Idaho's top 5 communities. So today, we're gonna be driving you through the top 5 communities out here in Eagle, from resort style communities to talking about some of the more typical communities out here in Eagle, to give you guys a good understanding on which Eagle communities would be a good fit for you as far as price point, culture, all of those things, so that you can decide, after you've decided if Eagle is a good suburb for you, which communities, which top communities would be the best fit for you and your family. And before we go into these top communities, as always, my name is Brady Fagel. I'm a real estate agent and a Boise local. And if you reach out to me, that is my personal number that I've had since I was 12 years old. You get to work with me. I don't pass you off to any other agents on my team, and know that I got into real estate to help people, not necessarily to sell houses. I'm good at that as well. But my goal is to help you guys with any and everything that you need. I try and take a holistic approach and do what's best for you. Even if Boise or some of these suburbs aren't for you guys, I want to help you guys figure that out on your own, and know that if you reach out to me, hopefully we can be friends and have lifelong relationships to where I'm helping you out with any and everything that you need. So know that. Look forward to meeting a lot of you guys. Really enjoy working with all of you and really appreciate all of the support that you guys have given to me and my family. But today, let's hop into the top 5 communities out here in Eagle, because this is the next step in the stages of figuring out if Boise's right for you. Is suburb, community, and then at the very end, we need to find the right house for you. So let's look at Eagle, Idaho's top communities. Okay, now we're dropping down into Eagle, and right off the bat, so we went from Meridian to Eagle, and this is what you see driving in. And this is where we'll start off. This is gonna be the only older community that we're gonna go through today, but we can't skip it because this area of Eagle is just so popular. You've got 2 rivers, you've got Banbury, you've got Island Woods, you've got a ton of stuff on the right. This is kind of where Eagle started and got its name for being, you know, the luxury Beverly Hills of Boise. You're down here in the valley, you've got the golf courses, you've got the Boise River, you've got $700,000 houses in here, you've got $7 million houses in here in certain sections. So want to take you through this community first before we go get into all of the new shiny objects, the new construction communities, the ones that everybody else is probably thinking of, to give you guys kind of a base set for the top Eagle neighborhoods and communities. So we're gonna go left in here. You have a lot of similar stuff on the right side of Eagle Road, but want to go through what is usually the most referred to community out here in Eagle, and it's 2 Rivers, which also has Mace River Ranch in here. You've got a number of smaller pockets within 2 Rivers. But as we drive in here, you guys are gonna see why this is so popular. Just the beautiful landscaping. It's an old enough community that you have obviously these huge mature trees everywhere that gives you that canopy effect. You're also just centrally located. So you're 5 minutes to Target, you're 5 minutes to the Boise River, downtown Eagle. You can go right down Eagle Road to get to the interstate and everything along Eagle Road. The village is 10 minutes away. And as you guys can see, as driving through this community, it is just very hard to beat this entire area. And I'll have Grant show you guys the map a little bit, but you guys can see all these ponds and waterfront properties everywhere too, because there's so many trees in here now that it's hard to see the water unless you live on it. So you won't be able to see that too much, but you just get a luxury feel. You don't feel like you're in Boise anymore. You kind of feel isolated even though you're right off the busiest road in the entire state. All these ponds that you just saw too, they have fish in them. I used to come out here in high school and sneak onto these ponds and sometimes get kicked off. Sometimes I catch, 5 pound, 6 pound, 7 pound bass in here too. But like I said, so that first section, there's older homes, 20 years old. You can find homes in Two Rivers for $700,000-800,000. And then there's different sections of this community where you start getting into the 1, 2, 3. There's even an $8 million house in some of the gated off sections in here, like Mace River Ranch. But want to at least give you guys an idea of the shores over here, which is a little bit newer section. Give you an idea of some of the newer houses in here. Most of these houses in this section are going to be pretty much 2 to 3 million for the most part. You might have some that are a tiny bit lower, or some that are obviously higher as well. Gorgeous houses, some of the most unique houses in the entire valley. It's very hard to find communities that have this unique of a look and customability, especially like that Spanish style house with the red, shingles on top. And really, I'm trying to think if there's even another neighborhood. There might be 1 or 2 others that kind of have the same style, but it's really only this whole Two River section. A lot of families in here. You also have a lot of retired people, but this is kind of to show you guys the start of Eagle. For those of you that know about Eagle and have watched the suburb videos or anything on them, you guys know that Eagle is the wealthy part of the Treasure Valley, and this is part of why I wanted to start out in this neighborhood, is because it really shows you guys the level that Eagle goes to. You can't find a community like this anywhere else in the valley. Boise, Meridian, Star, especially to this extent. I mean, Two Rivers and this whole area down here is just really big, so you have plenty of options. And we actually haven't even toured any of the homes, so we'll have to pop up just some photos of the inside of some of the listings in here to give you guys an idea of kind of what the inside of some of these houses look like. Obviously, you guys are seeing drone shots of everything in here. But like I said, this is an older community in Eagle. You can't build really any new construction unless you go, ultra expensive in here. There's a few lots here and there that you might be able to build a custom house on. Hard to beat this area as far as location for Eagle goes. All of the new construction stuff gets pretty far out there from the rest of what we're going to look at in this video, but gives you guys a base of Eagle. Now let's go start taking a look at some of the most desirable top locations, top neighborhoods in Eagle that are new construction or newer communities. And a lot of these ones out in Eagle are very amenity rich, so there's going to be a lot to talk about. And as we go through each one too, I don't want to leave out information that's just valuable on general neighborhood stuff. But as I always talk about, let's start with suburb, then let's go to neighborhood, and then at the very end, let's find the house that's right for you guys and really narrow it down so that you guys can be in the best area and the best community and then find the best house. Okay, now we are out here at one of the most well-known places in all of Eagle, and it's Dry Creek Ranch. Now, when you come up here, obviously, you guys will see the mountains, the foothills, one of the biggest draws here. Right off the bat, to the right, you have the hills section of Dry Creek Ranch, which is, we might get out and give you guys kind of an overview if we can get up high there. To the left, you have kind of the basic Dry Creek Ranch section, and then on the far right, you have the estates, which is acre, 2 acre, 3 acre lots with, $2, $3, $4, $5 million houses. So there's the basic outline. I'm gonna go into the hills first and see if we can get up high to get out and show you guys kind of an overview and talk about all of this. And then we'll get back in and drive you guys through the Creekside section and through the estate section. But at least for now, you guys can see this hill section. You're in the foothills, a little bit more unique setups. You get some views depending on which lot you're in. And Dry Creek Ranch, so where we're at, before I go into too much detail about a lot of these sections in Dry Creek Ranch, you're outside of Eagle in the Boise area about 10 minutes. So to get into Eagle, you're about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on where you go. You've got a Winco right there. We're obviously in the foothills, so you are gonna get a little bit more snow out here. I love it out here though, because anytime I'm out here, I usually see some deer, either in the fields, walking around. You'll get wildlife out here, things like that. But you are farther away from everything. So that is one con that we hear out in Dry Creek Ranch. And then the other one is we always hear about how expensive Dry Creek Ranch is. Your median home value in Dry Creek Ranch is around $950 and climbing. All of these new construction homes, unless you get a 2-car garage with a smaller floor plan, you are pretty much 1 million, 1.1, 1.2 million. You're not gonna find any new construction homes in here for under $1 million for the most part. Whether you're in the hills, which these have smaller lots, so you don't get big backyards like you do in the Creekside or the estates. And every builder, every home in here is built by Boise Hunter Homes, which has its pros and cons. They build a beautiful home. They have really awesome floor plans. You can see, I mean, they have RV garages. They've got, 3 bay houses. They have really cool interior luxury finishes. This is a true luxury builder only. The downside with Boise Hunter Home is that they are the only builder, and sometimes you are paying for the name of Boise Hunter. The same way you might, you pay $80 for a pair of Nike shoes when it costs them $5 to make. There's a little bit of that with Boise Hunter Homes, where they can be a little bit more expensive than they necessarily should be. There's also been a few small issues we've seen with Boise Hunter Homes, but usually they take care of you at the end. With that said, so we just drove through the entire hills section. Now I want to drive you guys through the Creekside, and we'll talk about some of the big amenities here. I know I talked about how most of these communities we're going to be driving through today are very amenity rich. So for people who want a lifestyle community is what it would be called, where you want the pools, you want the walking trails, you want the things to do within your community. In Dry Creek Ranch, you have 2 community centers. One's right here to the left. So there's some people out here playing pickleball right now. You have a pool, you have the community center. There's gyms in here, there's parks in here. You have another community center in the central part of Dry Creek Ranch. You have an equestrian center in Dry Creek Ranch. So if you have horses, you can pay to have them put up in the stable. And then there's a riding arena for you guys too. That way you don't have to have a horse property. You can live in a community like this and store your horses within the community. There is a community farm, which is a really unique and cool thing about Dry Creek Ranch, and is part of what has made it famous is this kind of holistic community style. The farm itself has a full-time farm manager, and if you sign up for that farm, they will deliver the produce that you select to your front door once a week, which is an amazing feature. They also have farmers market there as well, but it's awesome to know that there's a farm in your community and it can just be delivered to your front door. Coming up right here is the second, this is the very first one, but the second community center with a pool. They have a community center there, so if you want to have birthday parties or events, you can do things like that. Some of these homes in the center part of it are a little bit older, so you have homes in here that are up to, I think, 8 or 9, maybe 10 years old, but they're still building new construction like you saw in the hills. And then we're going to head over to the estate section, which is where you start getting into the 1-acre, 2-acre lots. And over here out these windows, if you can see, you have really wide lots on this side with 3, 4, 5, 6,000 square foot homes. Boise Hunter Homes is one of the few builders and communities that you can build 6,000, 5,000 square feet homes, which is pretty dang rare. Most builders only go up to 3,200, 3,300 square feet. So if you're somebody who needs a very, very large house, this is one of those communities that you can do it in. Before we get to the estates to show you that section of this community, Dry Creek Ranch, the community out here is a little bit unique where they call it mini California. A lot of people do because back when, 2015 is when it really started, but 2020, obviously there was a boom everywhere. Dry Creek Ranch for the longest time it's been one of the more expensive communities in the entire valley. And a lot of locals couldn't necessarily afford it here. And so when a lot of the Californians and Oregon and Washington moved here, they all came out here because, they're selling their $1 million house in California, and then they're just transferring it here to one of the nicer communities. So there's a lot of transplants in Dry Creek Ranch. You get a lot of conservative people in Dry Creek Ranch. I would say more so than I would expect in the Eagle, closer to Boise area. You have some back roads from Dry Creek Ranch out here that can get you into downtown Boise in like 15 to 20 minutes, which is kind of nice. But a unique mix of conservative community and luxury homes closer to the Boise area, which if you guys know anything about the Boise area, it's definitely a little bit more on the Democratic leaning side for the city of Boise. So something good to know about when looking at some of these communities, because it's an important piece of why a lot of you guys are moving here. And I hear it all the time is you guys want, and it is good to have community when you move to the Boise area. Once you find the right suburb, then the community you want people that you can meet so you can make friends. You want people that you're not going to feel isolated, that you feel like you can get along with. And Dry Creek Ranch is one of the better communities for that in a true community sense. It actually has that community feel. Okay, now we're in the estate section. So you guys can kind of tell these lots are a little bit farther apart. The section we're in right now is half-acre to acre lots. And then we'll go over to the section of the estates that has 2-3 acre lots. Your prices jump up a lot once you get into these bigger lots. In the acre lots, you're going to be in the 1.2 to 1.6 range on average. Once you start getting into the true estate lots where you're at 1 acre, 2 acres, you're pretty much starting off at the low $2 million range, all the way up to, you can go as high as, $4 and $5 million for some of these, larger floor plans. Like I mentioned at the beginning of driving through here too, a lot of the wildlife, the foothills, this is one of very few communities where you do get that living in the foothill feel. There's only a certain amount of foothills out here, and most of them are all in Eagle, some are in Star, but for the most part, it's only Eagle in the Boise area. And so to be able to live out here, look out your back window and look at the mountains, get one of the very few views of mountains with pine trees, because Boise is pretty desolate when it comes to trees. It's what is part of the big draw here as far as the wildlife too. Like I said, there's a lot of deer in here. I'm sure there's been times where I know just up the street I've seen foxes out here, so get a really cool feel. One thing to note, especially for those of you from California, a big concern with this community and the next two of the other communities we're going to go over today is the fire hazard. So there recently has been some things coming up in the Boise area too, where insurance companies are dropping their homeowners out here in Valnova, Avimor area because of the smaller fire risk out here. So it's something that you need to know about if you're going to move to a community like this, because it's a reality of living out here. Now, with that said, there's not the same risk that you're going to have with what we've seen in California. Idaho is well managed. It's on top of its things. There was actually a fire out here a couple months ago. They had a plane bomber out here dumping retardant within like 30 minutes to an hour. So they're on top of it. Idaho has water. It's well managed. Most of these communities like Dry Creek Ranch have a fire department or a plan in place where they're gonna get on top of it and they're gonna make sure their homeowners are safe. So low risk with homes burning down, but it is there. It is a reality of a possibility that it could happen. And knowing that your insurance rates are going to be higher out here with the small risk as well, with unfortunately what we're seeing is some of the trends in California are now bleeding up into the Idaho area. We don't know a ton of details yet because it is fairly new. But as you guys can see, these estate lots, you get a lot bigger homes, a lot bigger lots, and a little bit more luxury feel. But that is Dry Creek Ranch. There are some resale homes in here for the mid to low 900,000 range for a little bit smaller homes, you know, 2-car garage, maybe 3-car. So there is some more, I guess, affordability for Dry Creek Ranch standards. Obviously, that's not an affordable price for general standards, but you do have a number of options in here, and it is a big draw to the Dry Creek Ranch, and by far one of the top communities. This has been one of the best appreciated communities. Even through the dip, it stayed steady, and it has continued to climb because it is just such a desirable place to live with these foothills, with these community centers, and everything else that comes with Dry Creek Ranch. Next, we're gonna head to a community that is similar, but I would say has a lot more affordable options than Dry Creek Ranch. It's a little bit farther outside of town, and is just a really cool community. So we're gonna talk about that one. Then we're gonna head back into, I guess, the central area of Eagle, where we're gonna show you things that are closer to everything in the valley, into Meridian, into Eagle. And while we're at that community, I'm also gonna talk to you guys about some of the top communities that we didn't film in this video to give you guys a better understanding of, or some names to go with and look at for some of the other top communities in Eagle. That way you have a full spectrum look at all of the options, not just these $1 million communities out here in the foothills, but also all of the communities that are closer to town where most people end up looking at, which when we go to the next community, I'm gonna talk to you guys about why Dry Creek Ranch, the next community, and the last community that we look at, why a lot of people are drawn to them. And then once they come out here and visit the area, they visit these communities, I'd say 75 to 80% of people end up taking it off their list, even though it was #1 on their list prior to coming out here. So we're gonna talk about some of those reasons why and give you guys some insights there, but let's head to the next community. Okay, now we are out here in Avimor. We're at the Avimor gas station. I don't know why I said it that way. Gas station and convenience store. You have a restaurant out here at Avimor. And this was, I think, the first resort style foothill community. It took a kind of a next step from Dry Creek Ranch. So you have the community city center here. Avimor actually has an indoor pool with a gym that all homeowners have access to. This section right here where we're at is the older section. So they started building this in like 2013, 14. So almost, 10 years old now, or a lot of these houses. And now they're starting to expand into the newer section, which is where we're gonna head to. Because in the drone shots, you guys will get to see all the foothill views, the older sections of these homes, but I really want to talk about what's coming up and how they're really expanding it now and growing it and building these new construction homes for the first time in a while. So we'll head over that direction. And as we drive there, Avimor, the big draw with Avimor is I'd say the next step up for people who love to do outdoor activities. So you have mountain biking, hiking, UTV, ATV trails all throughout the community of hundreds of miles of trails everywhere. You've got parks everywhere. You've got a fishing pond that we just drove by back towards the community center. So you have a lot of outdoor activities. BLM land's not too far. And it is really in the foothills. This is probably the community that's the most in the foothills, and I'm hoping we can get up high to where some of these homes are, up on top of the foothills, because you get some really beautiful views out here. Now, one thing that people I don't think always expect is when you come out to Boise foothills are very bland. You don't have a lot of trees. You don't even really have a lot of shrubbery. So as you guys will see, I mean, it's pretty views, but it's not like you're in the mountains. It's not like you get beautiful tree-covered foothills. It's mostly grass. And I'd say for about 2 to 3 months out of the year, it's a green, or at least a more green yellow. So it gets a little bit prettier. And then in the winter, it is really pretty out here when we do get snow. And with snow, Avimor will have a lot more snow than the rest of the valley, because now we are getting up higher in elevation. So if there are times where it'll snow up here and you won't have snow down in the valley, there's been times where I'm out here and the valley is sunny and you're having snow out in this area. So something to keep in mind, because it plays into how far Avimor is from town. So now we're starting to get, 15, 20 minutes into Eagle and all of the things in Eagle. So your grocery stores, your restaurants, things like that. As far as schools go is where it gets a little bit odd, because part of this Avimor is Eagle's school district or Boise school district. And then part of this newer section of Avimor is actually Horseshoe Bend school district, so Boise County. So now you're sending your kids to Horseshoe Bend, which is up north, a small tiny town, and then all of your amenities and grocery stores and things like that are actually going to be south towards the Boise Valley, Boise, Eagle, Meridian, things like that. So it could make this a little bit weird if you ended up going to the public schools. Now, there is a charter school within the community itself, and as far as I know, it's free, but as far as I can tell, it's so new, and Avimor's obviously really the only people going there, that you don't really have to get on a wait list. Usually you can move in here and your kids can get into the charter school. So that is good news. But a lot of, kind of weird pros and cons out here with Avimor. Now we're getting into the newer section. So as you can see, you have another pickleball court right here. Nice that they covered this one, so you can actually, if it's raining, you can still play pickleball. There's supposed to be right in here somewhere, I don't know if it's been approved yet, but a dog brewery, so kind of a dog park brewery mix. There's going to be some other commercial retail space. You have a lot of the new construction Tresidio homes being built, which we'll drive through. They're starting to expand on the other side of the highway up over to the left, where you're going to actually get some bigger lots from Tresidio that are going to open up an opportunity for some of the floor plans that you don't necessarily get right here in the new construction section of Avimor. So this section right here down in the bottom, you have homes that are new construction for the mid 500s starting out, for 1,1600 square foot homes. As you guys can see, they're a little bit closer together. You have smaller lot sizes. Obviously the homes are smaller as well. But it does give you an affordable option if the lifestyle of Avimor is something that you want. To be able to live in the foothills, to walk out your backyard and go hit the hiking trails and walk all over the mountains. Again, wildlife comes into play here. A couple times, maybe 2 videos ago out here in Avimor, there was a fox chasing a cat down the middle of the street. There's a fox den up at one of the trailheads up on the older section of Avimor. You'll get deer through here. I would imagine you'd probably get a couple elk through here as well. I've just never seen them out here. I just know this is an area where they should be. Now we're starting to get higher up. You'll see these signs right here that are Avimor signs. It's a little bit weird. There's not any other community that does this, but you have Tresidio as a builder in here, and then you have Avimor as a builder. But all that it is we don't actually know who the actual builder is, but it seems as though they've just hired a builder to build the homes, and then they've branded it as Avimor being the builder, which is a little bit unique. We don't see that too often. Now we're starting to go up into the foothills here, and there's trails all over. No matter where you're at in here, you pretty much have a trail that you can hop into. But this is where we start getting into really the only community in all of Boise, other than maybe Harris North and Southeast Boise, where you get true foothill views, like where you're actually up here overlooking all of the foothills, all of the houses. And I'm going to try and get you guys as high as possible so you can really get a good grasp on what this looks like, because it is rare, it is cool. And they have some view lots that are buildable right now, so that you can build on some of these view lots right now across the highway. They're going to open up some later. The lot premiums on those are a little bit expensive, so they'll be right around 60 to 80,000 depending on which lot it is with Trucidio. I don't know what Avimor's are. So if you go online and you look at Avimor and you go to Trucidio's website, you'll see a floor plan with the base price, and then know that if you want a view lot, to add an extra $60,000 to $80,000 to that price right off the bat, and that doesn't include design selections. Now we're kind of coming over the hill. This will show you guys kind of the views that you get out here in Avimor, which are just impossible to find really anywhere else. There's a couple in Hidden Springs and there's a couple in Southeast Boise, like I said, but for the most part, this is one of the few neighborhoods that you get this. And with the outdoor community that you get out here, the ability to go, ride your ATVs, go hike the trails, it's really an outdoor community, and you really have to be okay with the longer commutes into town. You've got to be okay with some of the fire risks out here. I'd say you have more of a fire risk out here than maybe you do in Dry Creek Ranch, just because we are out here a little bit farther. We are also out in the foothills more, so there's not as much around us. You obviously have mountains that can pose that risk. You're higher up for lightning, things like that. So you do have that as a risk. And this is where I start to get into where I tell you guys Avimor and Dry Creek Ranch and even some of the other communities we're gonna look at in this community, they're number one on people's list, and then they come out here and they drive out here. And what is so weird is what happens is people actually fall in love with Avimor. They come out here and they're like, man, this is amazing. We love it. We want to buy a house here. We're going to build here. And for whatever reason, we drive back to the valley. They think about it that night, and then they decide not to build in Avimor. It happens almost every single time. And usually the reasons for that are they love these views, they love the thoughts. You kind of get starstruck when you're out here because it is beautiful, it is unique. But then when you get home and you're not looking at it and you think about it more, you start to weigh the pros and cons of the commute times, the more snow you get out here for your drives into town in the winter time. You start to weigh the fire risks, you start to weigh the lack of amenities out here, you start to weigh the school system for those of people who have kids, and it starts to weigh down, and the cons tend to outweigh the starstruck, kind of lustful eye of being out here. And so it's a very unique thing. It's similar to what I've talked about in the past, where Meridian, Idaho, as a suburb, often is the number one list, is the number one suburb on people's list, or it's at least in the top 3. But then when you come out here and you actually experience Meridian, it ends up falling off people's list. So that same style of concept. But with that, you have the new construction homes, like I said, starting in the mid 500,000s. You have homes in here for 1.7 to 2 million, which are, 3,000, 4,000 square foot homes up on the view lots with, luxury finishes. You also have the older section of Avimor, which actually opens up a little bit of a cool opportunity where you can get up in the foothills with pretty nice houses for $850,000, $900,000. And it's, only an 8-10-year-old home. Now your taxes out here in Avimor are gonna be fine. You do have a CID tax, which is essentially just for new developments because you're not annexed into the city. So there's a tax for some of the new infrastructure that they have to pay for. Your insurance out here is going to be higher, but your HOA fees out here are actually a little bit lower. They're not as bad as some of the other, resort style, lifestyle communities. So it tends to even out, but your general cost of living is higher out here in Avimor purely because of that insurance, premium out here, and then that CID tax. If you buy some of the older homes though, you are free from the CID tax. You don't have to pay the CID tax, which is nice because they got kind of grandfathered in when they first developed this property. Whereas with the newer properties, you do have that CID tax. So this is Avimor, one of the most unique properties out here. It's going to be a huge like 16,000 or 12, what is it, 7,000 acre? Yeah, 7,000 acre community out here. You're gonna have thousands of homes. It's gonna be basically a city in and of itself. They have plans to build an indoor shooting range out here. There's plans that I've heard to have, this is a funny one, I don't get this one, but a luxury car dealership out here where they're selling like Ferraris and Lamborghinis and stuff like that. Why in the world they picked Avimor or why that's in talks out here, I have no clue, but it is gonna be out here. You are gonna have more schools get built out here. You're gonna have more restaurants. You're gonna have more amenities that'll get built out here. I'm sure at some point they are gonna build a small, grocery store out here other than just the gas station that you have now. So it is going to grow. It's a community that you can grow into over the next, 5 to 10 years. So something that is good to know about. But that is Avimor. Now we're gonna head back into Eagle itself, give you guys a little bit more, I'd say, more common neighborhoods that are some of the top neighborhoods in the entire valley, and we'll talk more about that and head back into Eagle. Okay, now we are in Staggs Crossing, so we're in the valley itself of Eagle. We're still a little bit farther out here. We're kind of on the star border up by the foothills. But as we're going through Staggs Crossing, I'll of course want to talk to you guys about some of the other community options that are around here that are also, I guess, the top neighborhoods in the Eagle area. Staggs Crossing though, first, there's only a handful of homes and lots left, which I'll point out, but everything in Staggs Crossing that is left is 800,000, or not 800,000, $1 million. It used to be 800,000. Now everything is above $1 million in here. These lots are all larger. Most of them are a 1/4 acre plus. Some are a 1/2 acre or a 1/3 of an acre. You have Highland Homes in here, Woodbridge Pacific Group, you have Tresidio. Then you have a handful of other smaller builders that build a few homes a year. So you have quite a few options in here as far as builders go with what's left. Now, this is a community and a good talking point for you guys to understand how prices are going to be affected out here in the Boise area. So we know one of the developers and builders out here in Staggs Crossing, if they were to build this same community right next door right now, these homes would all be about $200,000 more expensive. Because land and homes have gone up so much, you get a lower price point on homes the older the land is when they purchased it. And so what that means is every time there's a new community, it's taking up land that they may have purchased 1, 2, 3 years ago. So it just continues to get more and more expensive regardless of, really the demand. It's a unique situation. But anyway, Eagle, as you guys can see, everything is expensive out here in Eagle. And some of the other top communities down here in the valley area that would be new construction communities, one would be Eagle Dale by Pacific Lifestyle Homes. It will be a very similar community to Staggs Crossing with 1/4 acre, 1/2 acre, even acre lots. It'll be a little bit smaller. It's right down the street. It's a little bit closer to Meridian, the Meridian area. But they're having some pretty dang competitive pricing in there. You can build almost 2,900 square foot home with an RV garage on 1/4 of an acre for $1 million, $1.1 million, $1.2 million. And that's a brand new community with a very nice house. So Eagle Dale would be another one by Pacific Lifestyle. Pacific Lifestyle is a newer builder to the area, and they have a very unique style, more Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon. That's where their roots are from. And Eagle Dale just released their model home. They just had their grand opening. So that's right down the street from Staggs Crossing, which is where we're at right now. Then I'll talk to you about one more community that's going to be down the street that's also a really popular one. But as you guys can see, this community is only almost built out. You have, 2 or 3 lots right here in this cul-de-sac area. You have a couple homes being finished up. But for the most part, I think there's only 6 homes for sale in Staggs Crossing that are new construction, and then about another 5 or 6 lots that would still be available. You don't have a pool in this community. It's more just, green space, walking trails. You are connected to Homestead and then Legacy, which are two other really popular communities out here in Eagle with, $1 million homes as well. Legacy being probably one of the more famous communities. It has its own 3-hole golf course in the community itself. The best landscaping you'll ever find, a lot of waterfront properties. Right here, this home just came back on the market and they actually lowered the price to $1 million, and that has a really big wide lot. It's a little bit over half an acre. Really good deal there out here in Staggs Crossing that I don't think we've toured that in a video, so I don't even know if we'll be able to pop that one up, but we'll at least pop up some other Tresidio homes so you can kind of get an idea of what some of the inside of these homes look like. The other one that I was going to say new construction wise, which is also Tresidio, is called Eagle Dale. They haven't quite released it yet, but you can start the process of reserving lots so that in the next few weeks when they do officially record the plat, you can start building your homes in Eagle Dale. It's going to be just outside of Legacy by Tresidio Homes. They're going to have lots that are smaller. They're going to have lots that are, quarter acre, half acre. They're going to have pickleball courts, pool, all of that. But that's going to be a new community out here in Eagle that I think is going to be very, very, very popular. And the homes in there are going to be in the $700,000 to $800,000 range for some of their smaller floor plans, and then pretty much starting out at around $1 million for some of their larger floor plans on their larger lots. So Eagle Dale will be another popular one. This whole area of Eagle is where a lot of your new construction communities are. And what's nice about this area is you're close to Star, so you have all of the Star amenities, you have the Boise River, but you're still decently close to Meridian. You can take Linder Road down to Fred Meyer, Winco, Costco in Meridian, and get into a lot of those amenities, grocery stores, 10, 15 minutes away. So nice location while still being out towards the foothills. Communities like this are just all over Eagle. You get these, higher end luxury builders, higher end finishes. You get a little bit more space in between homes for the most part. Some communities out here in Eagle you don't, but it just feels a little bit more spacious, a little bit more grand. You get a little bit nicer houses, RV garage options, things like that with the higher quality builds. And all of Eagle is just going to be more expensive like we've talked about and like you've seen with all of these communities. So there's Staggs Crossing and a number of other communities, but now we are going to head to probably the most hyped community in all of Boise, in all of Eagle. They just finished up some of their first houses out there, so we're going to show you kind of what some of those look like on the outside. It is going to be a full lifestyle resort community. It's going to be a 10-20 year project that's eventually going to have almost 10,000 homes. So there's going to be basically 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 people that will end up living out in this next neighborhood. And then we'll talk about what that means, what that community is going to look like, and go over just kind of what to think about when you're looking at Eagle communities, other things to think about when you've decided Eagle as a suburb might be an option for you. We'll give an overview of what to look for in communities as we head to the most hyped community out here in Eagle. Okay, now we are out here at the most hyped community that really the Boise area has, I think, ever had, and it is Valnova. You are up here in the foothills by yourself, and this will be a true resort lifestyle community, really unlike anything we've ever had. So you will have all the amenities similar to Avimor. You're gonna have amenities, you're gonna have hiking trails, you're gonna have a lot of open space out here. But where I think it differs is you're gonna have a full city center. They're gonna have full resort style pools and pickleball courts and tennis courts and walking paths and rivers and lakes. And then eventually they're gonna have like a PGA style resort golf course out here, 36 holes. They're gonna have a ski lift for in the winter so you can tube down the hill. In the summer you can mountain bike from the top of the ski lift down to the bottom. it's going to be something that's different than we've really ever seen out here. It's they've done this developer has done communities like this in Arizona and Utah and other states, but it's the first time they're coming to Boise, and it really is going to be something that we've never seen. It's going to be a 20-year project, like I said, with thousands of homes. You're going to have, 10,000, 15,000 people that will end up living out here in Valnova. And what I love about it is you get different price ranges. So you have townhomes right now and small single family alley load style homes that will be available for, the low 500,000s. There's some townhomes in the 400,000s. You're gonna have single family homes over here by Shea Homes for 600,000. They're starting to build out this recreation area where you can see they're building a lake right now over here to the right. They're gonna eventually start to build over the next year the community center too, that'll have, pool, fitness center, community center. They're gonna have a downtown area with shops. So you have lots of options, but I first want to drive you guys through the more affordable section where they're now officially, you can purchase homes out here, you can build homes out here. The townhomes are finished and available to purchase. Shea Homes has finally opened up their model and is now starting to build some of the other homes that will be move-in ready. You have Berkeley and Tresidio right here building their alley load homes, which is where the garage is in the back and the front door is in the front, kind of like you can see there. They're finishing out this kind of walking path that'll go through the whole community. And all of that is great, but of course there's going to be cons of this. But it's early on, which is a con and a pro, right? So as you guys can see, there's about 5 homes out here. So if you guys move in out here, you're gonna be a little lonely for a while. That's the con. The pro is that right now the prices out here are by far the lowest that they are ever going to be. So you can get introductory deals at really affordable prices out here in Valnova right now. And prices are gonna quickly go up, especially once they get some of the recreation areas, the community centers done. And as an example to kind of show is most of the people who built out here, especially the higher end homes, are lenders, real estate agents, and people within the industry, which gives you a hint and an insight into what we see this place turning into as far as values go. We saw it with Dry Creek Ranch, we saw it a little bit with Avimor, where you pay very affordable prices for what it is early on, and then your home value goes up quite a bit faster if you're one of the first people out here, which is why a lot of lenders and agents are the ones that are building out here first, because they are willing to wait the 5 years for this to turn into what it's going to turn into and capitalize on that growth. So there's a pro with that for being one of the first ones out here. Now, Valnova is out here a little ways as of right now. I'd say once in 5 to 10 years, this is really just gonna be kind of part of the city. Once they get everything built out, Boise continues to grow the way it's growing. But at least for now, you are 20 minutes into town to get to Costco, to get to Meridian, to get to the village, 25, 30 minutes to get to the village. To Boise, you're 45 minutes. So you have long commutes into everything in the Boise area, which is definitely a con. There's a con with some of the house prices out here. It is elevated because we are out here in Eagle technically, and obviously with a lot of the resort style. So even though your introductory prices or some of these first homes are gonna be a little bit more affordable than they will be in the future, for the more luxury homes, which we're heading to right now, you're still a minimum of pretty much $1 million. Most of these homes being 1.2, 1.3. Some of these bigger homes, they have some homes out here that have basements, which is very rare in the Boise area, that are 4,000, 5,000 square feet that are gonna be in the $2 and $3 million range. And it's hard to envision what this is going to be right now because it does just look like a bunch of dirt. But once they have this place finished, or not even finished, but even in the just next couple of years, when they start getting a lot of the landscaping in, when they start building more homes in these foothills, it is going to be absolutely insane with what Valnova is. And as we head into these, more larger single family 2,600 plus square foot homes that are in the $1 million range, I want to talk to you guys just about Eagle as a whole. If Eagle as a suburb is a place that you want to live, when it comes to a lot of the new construction, new developments, other than Staggs Crossing, Eagledale, you have a few smaller communities throughout Eagle. You do have those as options, but for the most part, the popular places are going to be these types of communities, where they're the lifestyle communities, where you have hiking trails, you have foothills, you have resort communities, you have pools, you have the lifestyle of the community. And so it can limit your housing options in Eagle, at least for new construction. There's obviously a lot of amazing older communities, more mature trees along the Boise River in the central area of Eagle. So you'd still have all of those options, but just know it will be resale. And even though Eagle is definitely higher priced, you can still find homes and buy homes that may just need updated for 5, 6, 700,000. So there are lower priced homes in here. It'll just completely depend on your individual criteria. But Valnova out here definitely is going to be a force of a community over the next few years. It's going to be an amazing community with all of these amenities, with all of the homes, with how big it's going to be. It's something that you're not going to be able to find anywhere else in the Boise area. And so if you are somebody that does like these, Dry Creek Ranch, Avimor, Valnova type of neighborhoods, it's a really good fit. Now, one big con with Valnova is it's a pro and a con. All of these foothills over here are BLM land, which is great. You're backed up to public land. You can go, ride your ATVs. You can technically go shoot your guns. You can go do all of those things, which is a pro. A lot of people like that about Valnova, that, for those of you who may have motorcycles or ATVs, you can hop right out your RV garage and go head out into the BLM land. What comes with that, though, is it's still public land, which means there's people out here that don't live in Valnova that are going to be having bonfires at night. They're going to be having, high school parties out here with bonfires. They're going to be shooting their guns. They're going to be riding their ATVs. And what has happened with that is there's already been 2 fires out here in Valnova that looks as though that may have been where they're started from. So something to know about. Again, going back to what I said kind of about Dry Creek Ranch, though, is Boise and Idaho as a whole, they do manage things properly. So it's not as big of a risk as maybe people are used to in their states, but it's still a risk, and your insurance things, your tax rates, all of those, your expenses can be higher, and there is that risk with Valnova. But that is the overview of the top communities out here in Eagle. If these types of communities or price points seemed like they were a little bit too much, the next most popular suburb and communities that usually ends up working is in this video right here, where we do the same thing we did today, but we go through all of the communities in Star, Idaho, which is neighbors to Eagle. And if price points are too high, these communities don't seem like they'd fit, most people end up looking at Star as an option. So check that video out. Thank you guys for watching.